everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Franny and I'm one half of the Indecisive Readers. Today I'm here to talk about my favourite book romances. This time last year I was sat here, well, in this house, complaining about romances, so I thought I'd change it up this year and talk positively about them. Like last year I read romances just to complain about them. This year I am exploring romances a bit more. So whilst I still don't particularly like romances, I could do another video about how much I don't like romances, I thought I'd explore in this one some relationships in books that I like. Well, I mean, I have specifically focused on romances. Maybe I should do like a separate one, I don't know. But I have specifically kind of focused on romances, but I have focused on romances in romance subplots rather than romances being the main one. There are of course a couple of romances in here, but generally we are going not romances. I'm just going to jump in and talk about the 10 books or the 10 couples I have on my list. So I'm going to start with my original OTP, and they are of course Katniss and Peter from the Hunger Games. I mean, I was always Team Peter. I like Josh Hutcherson a lot more than I like Liam Hemsworth. He was much cuter, all soft, and I think that's why I like soft characters now. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say other than Peter's character is the kind of character, the kind of guy that I would like more. So many male love interests now are that kind of dark, brooding character, and I'm just not interested in that. So yeah, much more interested in a Peter. I'm much more interested in a relationship where they allow themselves to kind of form a friendship. I still hold to the belief that Katniss is demisexual like me and needs the kind of time to explore relationships, explore those feelings and emotions connected to a person before she kind of feels any romantic attachment to them. I don't think she loved Peter at the start, but I do think by the end of the book she did, even if that's just kind of on an emotional level because she has gone through all this trauma with him. But I love them, I love their relationship, and Peter is just lovely. Sam, if you could bake me some bread like that, that'd be cool. So the next couple I have on my list, I am sort of cheating as of filming this because when I last read them, they were not together. They are as part of an enemies to lovers romance, and it was just really interesting, really well explored, and I was very invested in their romance, which I wasn't expecting because it wasn't a romance book. It was a fantasy with a romance, and I was a bit but because it was a main focus, I thought it'd be alright, and it was, and woo! That couple is Karina and Malik from Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This came out last year, the sequel is coming out this year, and I'm so invested in it. It was amazing, and the kind of intensity of their romance really worked, because I think sometimes when it's enemies to lovers it's a bit kind of wishy-washy. Likewise with friends to lovers, sometimes I'm really invested in it, sometimes I like the fact that they get to explore these emotions first, but in this one I liked the kind of enemies to lovers because they did feel so strongly before it started, and therefore that made the kind of actual story more interesting. They actually had emotions towards each other, and I thought that was much more interesting. And Malik was such a lovely character. The author has talked about this and I agree. He is, like Peter, a very soft character, and he gets to explore his emotions, and he isn't always okay with his emotions. He is quite clearly depressed and or anxious, and it was just nice to get to see that explored and not have his kind of feelings diminished. It's so rare to see any kind of mental health explored in fantasy or just general fiction that isn't kind of focusing on it, and so I just thought that was very well done, and he is lovely, and I'm very emotionally invested in their relationship. The next romance I have, I wasn't invested in at the start. It was one that grew on me as the series went on until I got to the third book and I was like, oh my god, I really want them to be together, and that is Nari and Ali from the City of Brass series. They very much don't get together until kind of the third one. I wasn't really noticing anything until the second one. The first one I was a bit thinking, is there going to be a love triangle? I am not invested in a love triangle. She likes that guy, let's not move on to a second guy. But as I like went through and I got to know Ali more, I was like, no, I do actually like this. I like him again. Quite a soft character. Are all of these soft characters? I think so. And I liked their relationship, how they did get to become friends first, how they formed this kind of like almost like partnership before they were a relationship, and I thought that was really interesting. And I liked the fact that there's just again tension, and they just make my heart sore when I was reading the final book, although it is so sad. I don't want to say a lot because like spoilers. It was like very dramatic and very like, oh my god, I'm really tense, but also there were these real moments of happiness with them together, and it just made me very happy, and I'm very much invested in them and would probably read like an extra book about them. There are other relationships in that are fab, but yeah, those two are cool. The next couple I have on this list are Amber and Kyle from How Hard Can Love Be by Holly Bourne. I just simply like this as a romance. It is one of the few just romances on this list, and Holly Bourne writes really interesting romances that kind of explore romance and kind of challenge it, so they don't always end up together at the end, or it explores the problems of relationships. And this was just nice as a relationship that was simple. It was nice to see characters have a happy ending. It was nice to see them kind of just simply be good. Amber was there overanalyzing every single thing, thinking this guy can't just be good, but it was quite nice to see that there were simply nice guys out there sometimes, or guys that will be nice to the girls that they are interested in. It was good to see that like he didn't have other intentions and people can just be happy, and I just liked it. It was one of my favourite romances from last year, and I liked seeing Amber have a happy ending, and I quite liked Kyle because he was a little bit soft too. I do have a type apparently. So the next one I have, actually the next three on my list are all queer relationships, which is great. Not all of these are queer, but I do like that we are starting to get a bit more diversity in terms of relationships. They're not all straight, and I am interested in reading some more. I have some more on my list for next year, and so hopefully I'll be able to do this again next year with just queer relationships. That would be pretty cool. But the first I have is Liz and Mac from You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is one of those books that is technically just a romance, but also has like other elements to it. It kind of explores high school and black experience in a high school and kind of queer experience in a high school, and it's very interesting. I love their relationship. I love that it kind of did everything that I'd want to read in a romance. So like their first kiss was so cute, like they were so invested in it that they just like hit each other like too hard and it wasn't good. And then the second kiss was cute, and I just loved the kind of description of it. It was wonderful, and I have the book physically now. I did borrow it from the library because I will reread it, and I like how their relationship kind of concluded. It was nice, it was soft, and they just made me happy. It was a real kind of feel-good romance. Should be made into a rom-com or like a YA rom-com. It should be made into a movie because it's the kind of story we would all need to hear. The next relationship I have, I think I've got the character names right. I did read this in July and didn't make a comprehensive list, but I think I'm right. And that is Rhea and Chloe from Seven Devils by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb. And this is a sci-fi book about a whole kind of group of feminist, female astronauts, scientists. It's like Firefly, but just women. It was fabulous. And two of the characters in it kind of have a relationship. Don't have like a massive one, but they are very clearly invested in each other. And there was just this one beautiful scene where I don't think they had sex. If they had sex, I missed it. But they just kind of get undressed. This is a spoiler. It's kind of spoiler. I'm very sorry. But they just kind of get undressed and look at each other and see all their scars and see all the problems, and they're just like, oh, that's cool. And that was it. And I just liked that kind of casual intimacy, the fact that they didn't have to like have sex. Not to say that they didn't, but they didn't have to have sex to show that they cared about each other, and I thought that was really interesting. One thing I hate about romances, specifically in films or TV shows, because obviously it's a book I can just kind of like skim read, but I hate sitting in front of the TV, which is probably why I couldn't get past episode 1 of Normal People, and just watch people make out for 2 minutes. I'm like, what you meant to do? Especially if you're watching it with someone else, but like, just what you meant to do. Like, if it's a program, it's clearly not meant to turn you on. At least that's what I think. And so I liked this book exploring what intimacy means. Intimacy doesn't have to mean having sex. Intimacy can mean literally stripping yourself bare. It can mean like kind of emotionally. And I thought this kind of exploration of what relationships is was just lovely. The next relationship I have on here is one I'm very attached to, and that is Suzanne and Iad in The Priory, the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I will come back to another of her romances because I think she writes them very well. I think she writes character relationships very well, not just romantically, but friendships and family and things are so interesting in her books. But I'm just very invested in it. Sam has read it recently and got very frustrated and was like, when are they gonna kiss? And I was like, not until 400 pages through, which seemed like a lot, and it is a lot. It's like a whole book, but it's 2 books worth, so it's fine. But I just like them together, and they make each other nicer, and Suzanne deserves a bit of happiness because, like Malik, she suffers from mental health issues and she just needs a bit of happiness, and she does have other love in her life, and I think that kind of exploration is interesting. But just their relationship together and how they make each other happy and how they challenge each other as well, because their relationship isn't all like happy. Like, they have some like problems, they have disagreements, kind of like big disagreements on like politics and things, and so I think how they challenge each other and make themselves better is interesting. And I know this is something Samantha Shannon has spoken about recently, but the ending and how they end up is interesting because she wrote it to be a happy ending, but other people have been like, oh, it's a bit sad, and I'm like, I don't think it is. I think it leaves a lot of hope and it challenges us and makes us explore what necessarily is a happy ending. Like, do characters have to be like married for it to be a happy ending? Because like sometimes that's not always possible, and so yeah, it makes you think a bit, even if that wasn't necessarily the point. My final official romance on this is one romance that I will not shut up about because I love it, and I will talk about it once I introduce the characters. Let's just do that. So that is Tiffy and Leon from the Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This romance makes me so happy. I brought this just before my exams were finished, but Sam brought it and like gave it to me, but I was the one who wanted to buy it, and he read it first and then I read it, and I was like, oh my god, I love these people. They are kind of exactly what Sam and I are like in a relationship. Well, not necessarily, but they began this relationship through being friends and through talking, and this communication is so important in their relationship, and it's so important in ours, and that's why I like connected to it so much, as well as the fact that Leon is quite like Sam in some ways. In some ways he's not, but like, just yeah, it just makes me laugh and they make me happy, and I keep coming back to it. Sam always listens to it. I will undoubtedly listen to it now. I've stolen his Audible account, but they're just lovely. And again, they are a book that I can see being a rom-com. There's a scene at the end which I can't see like scenes happening in my head. I can't see what characters look like, but I could just see like the actions of the scene. I could see it happening. It just made me very happy, and I want to see it. So like, someone best get on that. The penultimate book I have is the Diviners series, because I wasn't emotionally invested in the relationship until like the sequel. And the relationship is Sam and Evie. A few months ago I did the 5-finger book challenge, and the ring finger was, I should probably go for that one with a ring. The ring finger was a character you would marry. Now, I was originally going to go for Peter because I love Peter, but the more I read this book, the more I read like the Diviner series, the more I was like, I really like Sam. And I promise that isn't just because he's got Sam's name. That's just a coincidence. But as I was reading it, there was this kind of like hint of a love triangle. I just hated it. And I think love triangles are interested when you don't know which character is going to end up together. And this kind of did do it. I always hoped one way, really hoped one way, but I didn't know for certain, and I think that's what made it more interesting. But I liked Sam. I didn't really care for Evie, but I wanted Sam to be happy, and Sam liked Evie, and he was quite funny, and I liked their relationship together. And they had a little bit of a fake dating thing at one point, and then they just had like a will they won't they, which was a bit annoying, but like I liked how much they cared for each other. And then there was one random, like, no, we won't get into the one random sexy night throughout the whole book. But there were other relationships in this. Like, I particularly liked Ling's relationship with a character, and I liked her kind of exploration of her sexuality. But another video for another day. The final relationship I want to talk about is the one that is currently breaking my heart, and that is between Paige and Arcturus, or Warden, in the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. First time I read this, I didn't really feel anything towards the relationship. Second time I read it this year, I was a bit like, cool. And then I reread the first one again, so I reread it for a second time, so read 3, and I was like, I think I might be a bit in love with Arcturus. He, again, is a very, I don't want to say again is a soft character, because I don't know if you'd necessarily describe him as soft, but he is a nice character. He is a character who, I want to say, uses his words rather than does stuff. But their relationship is so interesting. Like with an enemies to lovers romance, because that is how it starts, they have strong feelings for each other, and you can't have a relationship really without having strong feelings for each other, or at least having the inkling of a strong feeling. And there's a part in the Dawn chorus where Paige explores her feelings for Arcturus and says how they started as enemies, and then they became friends, and then they came a bit more, and then it got complicated, and then the mask fallen. But I just... And also, Samantha Shannon has said, and said before the mask fallen when she said she would explore it, that Paige is demisexual. And because I am also, I really wanted to kind of know what this meant in this character, so I wanted to get emotionally invested in the relationship before like I got to it, and just how she explores it and how they don't rush into a relationship. Like, whilst they do have something in the first 3 books, they don't have a lot until later on, and I just don't know what to say. I just love them so much, and I feel like the whole video has been very babbly. But just know that I love these 10 relationships, and they make me very happy. So yeah, I'm sorry I babbled so much, but I wanted to talk about some people I love, and I found too many to just write notes on. So let me know in the comments some of your favourite relationships in books, if any of these you agree with, any of these you disagree with, because I'm open to interpretations. I'm very interested if any of you have read them in good love triangles, i.e. characters you don't know who are going to be together. I mean, if they're all interested in each other, that's also cool. Yeah, come and let me know your favourite relationships. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you agree. Give me some recommendations on good romances and good books with romances, and I will shut up now. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Stick around and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in another video. Bye!